Hi, everyone. I'm Shaheen from The Content Mix. I'm excited to be here with Daniel Tallon, who is actually a friend of mine. And he has 10 years experience in marketing. He's worked in several startups, including Spotahome, where we both worked at different times, but that's how we know each other. So thanks so much for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you.
So first of all, can you tell us where you are right now? For those of you watching the video version, you can see there's some green in the background, and those listening can probably hear the birds. So
yeah, so we're in the middle of the countryside here at the outskirts of Madrid. So I came to a friend's house, much nicer than staying in the city center, At this moment it's really nice. So I hope that there are no interruptions, but I think everything will go well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you win for the coolest setting so far that I've interviewed.
Yes, I'm winning.
Yeah. So could you just tell us a bit about your background and how you got into your career and what you do?
Yes. So I've been more than 10 years already with working in marketing. So I started in the beginning, I studied business and I started in marketing, in digital marketing. So I was expert in SEO and SEM at the beginning. So this was when here in Spain, we were starting with Google Ads. So it was really a new discipline. And then I grew a lot with the growth of the digital marketing scenario also. So I started working in Just Eat. That is a public company. You're one of the biggest European takeaway food companies. And I started with them around 10 years ago when the company was pretty small, 100 people. So I stayed there 6 years and I grew with them, and it was a hell of a journey actually, because after 4 years we went public. We went public in the London Stock Exchange. As you can imagine, I stayed in the company from the beginning, so it was all the change of culture from being a startup to being a corporative, big monster. Very interesting. And then also I spent, as you said, a couple of years in Spotahome, also leading the marketing and communication team. And my last professional experience was in Outfittery. So I was Outfittery is for the ones you don't know the product. It's like a personal stylist service for men for buying clothes. And I was leading the department of marketing and communication for all the markets. That is mainly in the center Europe. So I have been working with several countries within Europe, but also outside of Europe, in Canada, Brazil, and Mexico, leading Just Eat marketing teams. Yeah.
And you've also done some advisory of other startups as well, right?
Yes, I actually I have invested in a couple of startups. I am sharing some investments with Bruno, that you know him very well, here in Spain. And I have been advising some companies in terms of marketing, internationalization, also expansion and growth.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, for those who don't know, Bruno is my boyfriend who worked with Daniel as well as I did. We were all part of the Spotahome project. So yes, I guess we can talk about, I'm talking a lot about content marketing and how content plays into what you do. I know that your role encompasses a lot more than just content, but yeah, how have you seen like the evolution of content marketing in the time you've been working in the field?
Well, it has been drastic changes. Actually, I remember how in the beginnings of my career, content was not so important. Actually, I remember like creating bulk tons of articles and tons of texts, tons of like campaigns. Volume was much more important than the quality. Actually, it was about creating a lot. To position in SEO, I think the marketing has changed a lot, right? And in the last years, the focus has been about really understanding the client. I think really understanding what are the needs, understanding how to touch them emotionally, and to really create content that is more relevant and not massive, but more relevant for the customer. I think this has been the biggest change that I have seen in the last 10 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like, I know you're working in always in like a high growth startup environment that, at least from what I've seen, is a very like, I guess, high rhythm of work, and like the kind of, you are always adapting to new things and innovating and figuring out like the best ways to do things. So, well, do you have any examples of like campaigns that you've done or things you've been a part of that you think were particularly on the cutting edge for their
Hmm.
time, or in their moment,
Well,
not necessarily now,
yeah,
because it's
I
always
think,
changing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if cutting edge, because normally it's true that the cutting edge campaigns or marketing tactics are
Mm-hmm.
being driven by people that have higher budgets normally.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's true that what I have been doing a lot and pretty efficiently is how to adapt, and really with few resources being able to take the most, right? It's about how can you create as a brand the biggest impact, with the least resources. So this is something that in a startup is something very relevant. Okay, in the beginning you have zero budget. Okay, but this is and then you have to work a lot in like a pool marketing, or really growth tactics, like creating a lot of content, as I said, to really work on the SEO part, or optimize a lot if you have an app, like all the ASO, that is all the app store optimization, and really be very good on that. Being able to create share of voice also of your product, be able to try to do different tactics that could create the biggest buzz possible with the least resources.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, creating a podcast. I think
Right.
that creating a podcast is a great example where you are actually approaching a big audience with very few budget or resources. Okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is, and I have done a lot of that, but also I there was a point in my career where I was managing like a huge budgets that speaking about more than 60 million euros in 1 year for several countries in Just Eat, and this required a different strategy. So in that, what I think that we did pretty well in that moment, it was to really localize the campaigns. So speaking about localization is about you have two ways of really, I'm speaking about big campaigns, TV campaigns that also rely on content, because in the end that's the core. Okay, um, so you can like create one ad and then like translate and localize to different countries, or you can really go into the different countries insights and create different ads with different messages, totally adapted to the country. So I think that this second approach was the one that worked the best. It's true that you have to pay more in production. Okay, but it gave us a real chance to connect locally with the audience. So I think that this was done very well there. When you have like a power of budget, also I think that there's also an art about not spending so much on the media, but spending more on production than media. That I think that is also something that if you do it well and you innovate in the production part, you can really like push your brand to a different level. We have done internationally a lot of like collaborations with influencers and commissions. So this worked specifically well for a campaign that we did in Brazil, using an influencer in a TV ad and really like engaging with the audience in a humorous way. Also, that was working really, really well. Um,
I was curious
and
on
yeah.
the point of the when you're talking about budgets, because that's definitely one thing you see, like smaller companies, there's I think there's a certain point in a company's growth where there is a return on the investment of doing things in more languages. Do you have any thoughts on like when that actually is?
Yes, this is a great question, actually. Yes. So I think that if you can, I mean, it depends in many variables. So it's not the same where we are speaking about, for example, the the Dutch um, the Dutch customer with the German have more similarities, even though they are very different, but they have more similarities. Or with the Spanish with the Italian have more similarities that if you compare like the Brazilian with the Spanish or the English. You know what I mean? So I think that here it comes. I mean, of course, when you have no budget, there is no other option than producing once, trying to be relevant as possible, because normally um, if you are not focusing on a specific customer, you won't be relevant for them, that is for sure. But you like try to produce something that could work for everyone, for all your like target audiences, and then translate. When you have no budget, of course, that's the only option. Okay, if you want to go international, another option is just to focus in one market and say, okay, even though I don't have budget to produce many ads, so I'm gonna focus first on my main market, Germany or England or whatever, right? I think that a smart approach to this is like really finding similar countries that could have similar insights or similar customer behaviors. Okay, and producing, if you don't have money to localize per country, produce based on these like hubs. For example, Central Europe, South Europe, you know, Scandinavian countries. I mean, you can cluster some countries and really produce and then translate. This could be a smart way of, it's a mix of localization and centralization that normally works. What I haven't seen in my career, a campaign that was produced in one country of Europe and that worked for all the European countries. I tell you, never. But I have never seen a campaign that was produced in one country and worked in more than 2 or 3 countries, to be honest. So I think that clustering is a smart way of doing it. And then, of course, when you have enough business and enough like revenue in the different countries, you can localize. And sometimes producing locally is even, you can find quite cheap options also. So I think it's true that it's more expensive, but it's not like multiplying for the number of countries. Normally it's not so much if you really look for a good provider, local provider.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I maybe was cut you off before. You wanted to give an example of something, or
no, I think that this, and then I was speaking also about in my last in Outfittery, we were actually producing for Dutch. So in the end is the countries of Central is what I told you in the end before, like clustering markets that could have similar purchasing behavior. And we saw, for example, with Austria and Germany, this is very clear. They have very similar patterns of behavior. So in this case, it makes a lot of sense to create one campaign for both countries.
I see. So no, you've been working in companies that are all high growth startups, but are very different industries, like everywhere from food to real estate to fashion as well. So I imagine you had a very different approach to marketing in each one. Can you kind of compare and contrast to like what works in one industry versus another?
Yes, I think all of them had one thing in common, and it is that they are like tech companies. So it's they have a digital product. So even though, of course, Just Eat is a marketplace of restaurants, but it's a digital marketplace. Spotahome is a digital marketplace also of apartments, and also, well, Outfittery is a little bit different because Yeah, it's not a marketplace, but it's an e-commerce, and it's giving you like tailored. So all of them are tech, are digital products, and of course they have some similarities. But I think, I mean, different approaches. The Injusted, it was the most important thing in Justit. It was about really signing the restaurants, like, and really being able to market them as good as possible. So this was because, and this is something that, for example, you couldn't do in Spotahome, because the apartments that you are bringing in the marketplace, they have no brand. You know what I mean? But in Justit, you are bringing a brand in-house. And then you can really create a lot of synergies between your brand and the restaurant. And in that synergies, it comes a lot of growth, because when two companies like that, a tech company and a restaurant, is joining forces, I mean, you can really get a lot of win-win relationships. This was happening also in Outfittery. In Outfittery, we were working with small brands, but also with big and very relevant brands. So we were leveraging on the big brands to acquire new customers, to win trust of our customers. There was a clear like win-win relationship in terms of brand expansion and growth. Okay. In Spotahome, it was more challenging, right? That was not part of the mix. But for example, in Spotahome, the SEO, the organic growth was super important, and the part of collaborations, partnerships with universities, or with like organizations that could bring clients, and where you can see like good also win-win relationships. It's not about your direct client, but it's about collaborating with another company that has the same target audience, and then we can like create a combined product proposition. Like, for example, if you partner with universities, you can say, okay, come to this university for doing this program, and look at, you have here accommodation with a spot at home. I mean, this is also a very good way of really creating um, um, co-branding campaigns, right? I think that also in Just Eat and also in Outfittery, it was the offline marketing had much more importance than in Spotahome also, because the relationship with the client is different. In Just Eat, you have a client that you need to acquire and retain, because if you just acquire a customer and he buys one time, he is not profitable for the business. So you need him to buy like 10 times. So you need to build a huge brand awareness, and also like work a lot on the brand perception, in order to not ensure that he's buying one time, but actually he's buying 10 times, right? In Spotahome, the relationship with the customer was different. It's no, of course, you can only use a Spotahome normally once per year. So it was much more, that was much more challenging. And so the relationship was more about ensuring that this experience that you are having is going to be the best, right? And ensuring that this first experience is the best as possible, because only with the first experience he's profitable. So I think this is something that needs to work for everyone, right? I think that in the three companies, there are a lot of differences in terms of budget allocation, strategy. Also, we were talking to very different customers also. So yeah, it's true that they have some commonalities because they are all digital products, but yes, I think it's a totally different way of doing marketing each of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess each company has its own world and its own kind of culture, and expectations and everything are very different.
Yes, I think that the only thing that is well, it's true that in Just Eat there was not so much customer focus obsession, but it was more about the, sometimes it was I was feeling that it was more about the restaurant than the end customer sometimes, but in Spotahome and also in Outfittery, it was customer obsession. I remember both, and this was also very similar in both companies.
Yeah.
Really understanding the needs, learning from feedback, like improving from starting with the customer to improve the product
Mm-hmm.
and the marketing, and use the communication to actually push that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was saying that, like in Just Eat, I guess that makes sense because it is actually the restaurant that's providing the service to the end customer, right? So, and they're kind of connecting them. Yeah.
Yes, it's true, and also is what you said about the company culture. Also, I think that
Mm-hmm. As well.
is
Yeah.
also, yeah. It was
Yeah.
more like sales, marketing driven, more sales driven. I think a little bit more, and then Spotahome and Outfittery more product and customer driven. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for you? What are you looking to do
That's
next?
Well, I right now I probably build my own venture, so I'm starting to build my own company. This is still very early, so I won't give any more detail. But yeah, I think that for me is after more like 12 years in marketing in startups and mid-sized companies, it's good to try my own thing and try to apply all the everything that I have learned during these years.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
And also, I mean, I'm open to advising companies also now that I can promote my services here. I'm working as advisor for a couple of companies. So yeah, if you are interested, just give me a call.
Yeah. I mean, would you like to mention the companies you're advising? Yeah.
Yes, well, one of them is it's Rocket Food, that is a cloud kitchen business that is was started here in Spain. They are only having like they are all only delivering food in Madrid for the moment, with three brands actually: Vegan Burger, the other one is La Ración, and Finger Food. So these are the three brands that we have in the center of Madrid for the moment. So feel free to try them.
Very
And
cool. I've
yes,
heard
this
of
is,
them.
yeah.
I've
Have you
tried the
tried?
food. Yeah, yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah, it was good. I've tried both the vegan burger and La Ración. Yeah.
Yeah, they. I mean,
It
we
was
are starting. Yeah.
yeah, they were doing well during the lockdown, I think. I definitely heard people talking about them. So
Yes, yes. They actually, yeah, they had, yeah, they were delivering tortillas, Spanish tortillas, to a lot of people. One of them, an influencer, actually.
nice.
Yeah. No, it's. I think they are doing a very very good job. So if you like Spanish food, I really recommend to try it. And you can find them in internet in their own website or in Uber Eats or Deliveroo. Just eat all these companies. Yeah.
Mhm. Cool. And you said there's another company as well, or?
Yes. So but is this one is in phase of like being created. So it's still not. Um, it's a fintech company that it's a friend of mine that I'm helping them actually at this point to prepare the launch of the product. Yeah, but this is not still in the market. Soon it will be.
I see. Very cool. Um, all right. Well, maybe we can finish up by talking about any advice that you have for people getting into marketing at startups.
Mhm. Well, I think that if you are thinking about getting to do marketing in startups, I think that the biggest advice would be like, to be prepared for anything. Like when you work in a startup, it's crazy how many things you can do, like how many times you can change direction, how many times you are like, sometimes it's a bit chaotic, it's not a solid ground to walk. So I think is having the capacity of adapting to the uncertainty. I think this is super important. I think that also all this coronavirus, the COVID, has. I mean, I think that a lot of lessons of this virus is that you need to adapt and react to what is happening, right? Big companies are changing the way also they are doing the stuff, and they are getting closer to what is the startup mentality, where you work on very short in very short time frames. You know, you work like in weekly time frames, you analyze weekly, you react weekly, you plan weekly, you do a strategy weekly. Sometimes it's a bit crazy, but it's very agile way of moving. I think that this is the heart and the soul of the startup. I think that if you are a person that is very dynamic, you have a lot of energy, I think this will work for you. I think that this is the mentality, and you need to be prepared for that. I think that this is also something that you need to be aware. It's not like beautiful. It's not okay. You're gonna be like sharing probably the workspace with people that is similar to you, because in the startup environment, the people share values, real values, that this is not happening in big corporates. You're gonna have like big bonds with people and like recreate real connections and relationships, but this is gonna be crazy and hard also, because as I tell you, is I mean every week something can happen, so you need to be prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose you started out, you said doing like an SEO job with Just Eat, right? And in just like a few years, you went from that to like running marketing for Spain. So it's a kind of job where you have the opportunity, like if you're the right person
Totally.
to
I mean, and
grow.
this is a very good point. Exactly. I think that startups demand a lot from the people that are actually working in the teams, but also the opportunity of growing with a company. This is a huge recognition. Also, I think that is first you need to. Well, that happened drastically in Just Eat, like the ability of growing with the company. I think this is something that is a huge opportunity, but you need to be prepared also to learn super fast, boom, 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 to be able to grow at the same level as the company, right? Yes, but also you need to also be prepared. If that super growth doesn't happen, don't be frustrated and continue searching. So I mean, sometimes Just Eat had this magic mix of like the perfect time with the perfect product, you know, and a super scalable product. And but this is something that if doesn't happen, I mean, continue searching and grow with the company. This is a great point.
And was that, had you worked in marketing before the role with Just Eat, or was that your first kind of break into the
So
industry?
in Just Eat, I started as marketing manager for Spain, and prior to that, I was doing SEO and SEM. I was more specialized on that.
But in the
Yeah,
same company.
it was in a marketplace, a Spanish marketplace, but I didn't like. It was 1 year and a bit less, but I got very specialized on digital for during those like 6 months, 12 months, and then afterwards I went to the startup
Uh-huh.
world.
I see. So starting out in an agency and moving to.
Well, we were selling some products, like, but it was a mix of products. I think that the
Okay.
company it doesn't exist anymore. I think it was yeah.
Yeah, cool. That was a long story, I suppose, to go there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You know, I was just gonna, I think like a lot of times people are interested just to know the story of how you broke in, because I think a lot of people probably in our audience are people looking to break into the industry as well. So it's always interesting to hear those like origin stories.
Yes, yes. I think that, yeah, I think that jumping in a project that I think that when one thing that I think that helped me in my career was more than looking at what was my salary, or more than looking at how big this company was or not. It was if I really believed if I am like a fan of the product, if I really believe in the product, if I really think that this is something that can scale, that can give a great value to customers, and that can grow, that was for me. That was when I was going to Spotahome. It was about, wow, this can change the way people rent houses. When I want to Just Eat, the same. This can change the way that people are ordering food. And I think that, like, really choosing the company where you are going based on the product that they are offering, and that you really believe that this can work, is the best way of really choosing the company you want to work with. Yeah.
Yeah. And doing something that you're passionate about means you're going to enjoy the work that you do more, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Daniel, for taking the time to speak with us. It's great to hear.
It's been a pleasure, Shaheen. I mean, anytime, whatever you need, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. I hope you enjoy the rest of your time in the outdoors. Thank everyone else so much for joining in. For more episodes like this one, keep tuning into the podcast. It's every weekday, and we'll be publishing a lot more interviews like this one. See you next time. Bye.